Now, the Special Investigating Unit says it's ready to recover money irregularly paid by the Tshwane Metro. SIU spokesperson Kaizer Kganyago says it has its eye on the procurement and contracting for upgrades and refurbishments at the Rooiwal Wastewater Treatment Works.
Yeah, the facility supplies water to Hammanskraal outside Pretoria. The area, as you remember, made headlines earlier this year after a cholera outbreak claimed the lives of dozens of people there. President Cyril Ramaphosa authorised the probe over allegations of maladministration and corruption in the metro.
But at the end of it all, if we find at any stage that there was money that was paid and that was irregular, that's why the emphasis with us dealing with these matters in the tribunal is to say you set aside. When you set aside a contract, you then go to the beginning of the contract and say, now this contract does not exist. And therefore, if it doesn't exist, all of the transactions that would have happened after will have to be irregular. But we know that in some instances, there will be some of the individuals who would not want to cooperate, and therefore we will use our full powers to do that. And then I like what the mayor is saying, because what is important with our investigation, unlike all the other investigations that might have happened, we have got the power to go and recover the money in our own name or in the name of the city of Tshwane.
Kaizer Kganyago there mentioned the mayor. Cilliers Brink is the mayor of Tshwane and joins us now via our video link for his reaction to this. Mr. Mayor, great to have you on the program. Thanks as always for making time. It goes without saying that you'll welcome a probe like this, but my understanding is that the city of Tshwane actually conducted its own investigation into this wastewater treatment plant. What did you find?
Yeah, so this contract was for one of the phases of the upgrade of the Rooiwal Wastewater Treatment Plant. It unfortunately came way too late to have a significant impact, and then to add insult to injury, the contractor walked off site before the work was completed. My predecessor as Mayor, Randall Williams, then ordered a forensic probe into the tender, and it was found that the tender had been awarded irregularly. So that forensic investigation was adopted by the Municipal Council, and there are a number of disciplinary cases that are currently underway on the strength of that forensic report. So in essence, the investigation found the tender to be irregular, and it has various civil and disciplinary steps, and that's why we welcome the SIU investigation to this matter, because it will strengthen the investigation already underway, and the SIU can, of course, do what the city can't.
Yeah, and that's supposed what was my next question. You know, how different the SIU's investigation will be to yours. I mean, what are some of the unanswered questions that you're hoping the SIU will finally provide answers to, outcomes perhaps that you can necessarily produce?
So it's easy to establish that a tender was awarded irregularly. What is more difficult is to show that there was actual corruption. In other words, an exchange of a favor for some monetary benefit to those involved. In order to gather that kind of evidence, you need to look into emails and bank accounts and telephone conversations and corporate structures, and all of the kind of things that are usually beyond the scope of a municipal administration or its internal audit unit. The SIU has got certain powers to do that, so it's not just a civil investigation that they can undertake, but their findings can have criminal implications. Moreover, the SIU has the power to regard or to set aside certain contracts and to assist the city in recovering expenses that should never have been paid. So they do have significant powers, which are essential in these cases, and we hope that while they are in Tshwane, they'll make findings that will help us get to the bottom of certain other things that have happened in the city. In the past decade, there has been 10 billion rand in irregular expenditure. There's clearly a systemic problem in Tshwane, in particular with the supply chain management division, and any assistance we can get to clean that out, to make sure it doesn't recur, is absolutely welcome.
Yeah, speaking about other things, many people associate Rooiwal with the cholera outbreak in Hammanskraal. I understand this is probably going to have, the kind of implications that are of a criminal nature for those who are implicated. But how widespread are you hoping the investigation will be? Are you hoping that in some ways this might also help us definitively link whether this outbreak was in fact caused by this particular wastewater treatment plant not working as it should?
So I doubt that the SIU will make a finding in that regard. Several organs of state, including ourselves, the Department of Water and Sanitation, the CSIR, have done investigations, and we haven't been able to trace the source of the cholera. The only thing we know is that patient 0 was a police officer that came to the Hammanskraal Training College. So there is still the possibility that there is no link between the cholera outbreak and the state of the Rooiwal Wastewater Treatment Plant. But the fact that the upgrade of the plant has taken so long and that at such a late stage there was tender rigging in an attempt to upgrade the plant is a very serious issue. It has prolonged the suffering of the people of Hammanskraal, and so it's very important that we get to the bottom of it. It's not just about justice in the past and making sure officials are held to account and anyone else, including politicians, are held to account. It's also about changing the culture so that these things don't recur. It is very much about the future. And if we don't have consequences for past bad behavior, then future bad behavior is bound to continue.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just about justice, but justice is a big part of it, isn't it? I'm not sure if you've been able to see today's morning papers, but the Sowetan has got on its front page this particular story. And part of what the article mentions is that Edwin Sodi, who many people consider to be at the center of what's gone wrong at that particular wastewater treatment plant because of his own involvement through his companies, apparently he's blaming his late business partner for things not necessarily going right there, for the job not being done. It raises questions about how worried we should be that, that kind of posture, that kind of deflection may actually prevent us from ensuring that there is, in fact, justice on the other side of this investigation.
Oh, there'll no doubt be denials and deflections and so on. That can be expected. I think the SIU investigation will assist us perhaps in overcoming that. You know that with some of the COVID-19 procurement irregularities, the SIU stepped in and could be of assistance. And I hope that this will be the case again to break through some of the untruths and so on that are peddled. I just also want to add that the city of Tshwane has taken the first steps to have Mr. Sodi's company and his consortium that won this tender blacklisted with National Treasury. And it is significant because, from my understanding, no company has been blacklisted before at the instance of the city of Tshwane. Interestingly, the companies involved in this tender are fighting back on that front as well. They've written back and said, that there isn't sufficient basis for a decision like this to be taken. But it is important that companies implicated in these issues aren't recycled and aren't allowed to do business with other organs of state. We must take the findings of the Zondo Commission very seriously. As taxpayers, we contributed a great deal to that investigation. And so we must also learn from that and make sure that the companies implicated there don't do business with the government. Yeah.
Of course, in the backdrop, Mr. Mayor, you've been dealing with your own problems in the city of Tshwane in the form of that strike that's been ongoing for weeks now. How worried are you that workers perhaps not being at their posts might prevent you from being able to cooperate fully with this particular investigation? I don't know, in the instance where the SIU, for example, needs particular documents or certain data from some of your officials.
No, I don't think that the strike would be a barrier to this unless there is a strike action by management high up in the city, which of course is a possibility. I won't write anything off. But I think all of the transactions have in fact been properly documented. The forensic investigation does have very useful findings, which I'm sure will act as leads to the Special Investigative Unit. And the city manager, Johan Metler, I believe, has already met with law enforcement to offer any assistance that the city of Tshwane can possibly provide. So no, I don't think that the strike or anything else could compromise evidence, but of course, there is the outside possibility that somebody implicated in this might want to destroy things. So maybe it's best that the SIU comes on board and commences this investigation as soon as possible.
Yeah, couldn't have been sooner, right? Cilliers Brink, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Appreciate your time on the AM report this morning. Cilliers Brink, of course, is the mayor of the city of Tshwane.